Welcome to this special edition of the Sunday Times Politics Weekly. I'm your host, Mike Siluma. South Africa's police service has been plunged into controversy by recent claims by KwaZulu-Natal Commissioner Lt-Gen Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi of corruption and untoward conduct in its ranks. Among those Mkhwanazi accused are Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who's now on special leave, and Deputy National Commissioner Major General Shadrack Sibiya. Responding to the crisis, President Cyril Ramaphosa on Sunday appointed Wits law professor Firoz Cachalia as acting police minister. Prof. Cachalia joins us now on the Politics Weekly to share his views on policing and related issues.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things.
We will not be bullied.
Like we told mirrors to US, we're not just beggars.
The president did want them to say, if you are going to fire, we'll take it as declaration of war.
I can't be threatened by Zuma. I defeated Zuma.
You're dealing with Jacob Zuma. Every stage is a theater for him.
We're not sending help to criminals. We're going to smoke them out. They will come out.
There has not been agreement in terms of parties in the executive.
The executive must come here.
The people of Palestine, they're denied the right to enjoy the freedoms we so love.
Welcome to the Politics Podcast.
Thank you, Mike.
I don't know whether I should call you Prof.
Or call me Firoz.
Or Minister.
No, call me Firoz. Call me by my first name.
Yes.
Because we know each other. You can call me by my name.
Yes. Okay, now, were you surprised by the call from the president, for you to take up this post?
Yes, I had no inkling at all that he was going to ask me to do this. They had been trying apparently to get hold of me for much of the day. I was in that lounge watching sport the whole day. I was also catching up. I hadn't watched all the World Cup games and was looking forward to the tennis. So sitting there, and my phone was upstairs in the loft. I heard it ringing. It's got a very strange ringtone, my phone. So I thought, well, it's Sunday. I'm not going to take calls now. I'm a university professor. Who wants to get hold of me? My students? For what? And in fact, I've hardly done any teaching over the last year or two. I had one set of classes in constitutional law. That's it. So the students were also not after me. So whatever was calling could wait. And then I got they got hold of my brother, Azar Justice Cachalia, got hold of him, and he couldn't. He was also calling, but I didn't know it was him, so I wasn't responding. And then I think he gave them my wife's number, and she was sitting next to me on the couch watching the tennis with me. And then she gets a call, so then there was some relief, and they said to me, well, the president's going to be calling. And I said, fine. I thought maybe it's about the council, the National Anti-Corruption Council, which the mandate of that council also expires at the end of August. Mm-hmm. And we had just met with the president's team presenting a draft of our closeout report last week. And just to give a little bit, I have to punt the man who appointed me a little bit, I mean, he was in Brazil. He comes back, he's got this crisis.
This is for the BRICS.
Yes. Comes back, he's got this crisis on his hands, and the funeral of the former deputy president. And the meeting that he scheduled with the council went ahead. He was supposed to be there. He wasn't there, but he called me to say, look, I've lost my voice. And he again apologized on Sunday evening, but his whole team was there. They gave us a full 3 hours to present our findings and our report. And I was very appreciative of the president's consideration. And he's given me the assurance of the work of the council, who must be processed, through the executive system. So he then called me. I think that was around 6:30, and said, listen, I've decided to appoint you. The conversation lasted maybe two minutes.
He's already decided when he calls you.
Yeah, but we have a history. Look, I am a child of the struggle, Mike. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you are given a responsibility, many people are calling me and congratulating me and so forth. I don't quite see it that way. I don't see it as I see it as an important responsibility. It's a continuation of a project that this country has been involved in. You and I have been involved in that project. So now I'm being given the responsibility. It is in high office, in a time of some peril for the country, perhaps. And so for me, there was no hesitation. There was no question. My wife was right with me. She wasn't saying to me, well, can you just wait? I want you to talk about this. So yes, I had immediately said yes. And then it occurred to me that I have to explain that I'm under contract at WITS at the moment. And so he then said, okay, we'll deal with that matter. And then he made the appointment effective from the 1st of August.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Before you went into academia, you had a lot of interaction with the police as MSc
yes.
for safety and security in Gauteng. Were you surprised by what Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi had to say about the police?
I was surprised and shocked by what he had to say, as I think everyone in the country was. So I will say this about that. I don't think that, ordinarily speaking, commissioners, there is a national commissioner. There is a process to be followed. And accountability is ultimately to the minister and to the president. That's how a democratic system should work. Otherwise, you have anarchy. So that's ordinarily what should be expected of a person who holds a very senior position, who is well schooled, who understands the constitutional arrangements and the rules that apply when you exercise the authority at that level. Now, whether or not he was justified in going public in that way will become clear in time. If it turns out that the facts, which are as yet to be determined, have merit, have substance, he would be fully vindicated in doing what he has. Because sometimes the rules themselves are an obstacle. So when I have the opportunity to meet him, that's what I will say to him. What is ordinarily expected is what is expected. He has decided to step out of the parameters which are usually binding. And we will see. The public certainly thinks that it was high time that somebody has the courage and the determination to step up and say, tell the truth. These are the facts as he understands them. And I understand that sentiment. And I will give him also due consideration. And we'll see in 3 months' time the commission will make some findings.
Mm-hmm. I know that the call was made by the president, to establish the commission. But I think that you would have picked up the impatience, among the public that the president is talking 3 months, is talking 6 months. This is taking us into next year, almost.
Yeah.
Couldn't there have been other interventions in the interim, at least to have to get a preliminary view,
So
that can be shared with the public? For example, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi put forward what he said was evidence of what he was talking about. Couldn't those be checked? Do those, in your view, do they need a 6 months long commission to establish or disestablish?
Okay, let me say a couple of things about that. I'm going to get my reasoning right. General Mkhwanazi has made allegations. He has supported that those allegations with some WhatsApp messages, other indications to support what he's saying. But those are allegations. I think it would be entirely improper. Actually, I think it would be abuse of power by the president to assume those allegations are facts. Ordinary decency, ordinary rationality requires a process of fact-finding and a determination, in my view. Now, in this kind, what is that process of fact-finding? You could have a parliamentary inquiry, and there is going to be one running parallel to this judicial commission. Personally, I'm strongly in favor because, when I was the speaker and so forth, I tried to build that capability in Parliament for parliaments to conduct inquiries, to make findings of fact and to make recommendations. That's one feature of the US system that I like. But our Parliament and our committees are not structured nor do they have the experience in that body made up of 400 people, highly contested, to make findings of fact. That's not to say that the inquiry process that they are going through is very important. If they call on me, I will fully support that process. But that's one way to do it. It's a political process of finding facts. In this country, we have the tradition of appointing a judicial commission of inquiry. Now, it has some advantages, maybe some costs as well. Judges are experienced in making findings of fact and law. They do that every day in the exercise of their responsibilities. They are expert at finding facts. I think our country also has a tradition of respecting judges because the judges are considered to be non-political and therefore objective. They have got no interest in the findings that need to be made one way or the other. They put on their robes, they look at the facts in an impartial way with the weight of experience that they've accumulated in weighing evidence, making findings of fact, and so forth. So a judicial commission of inquiry has a lot of advantages. In the circumstances, now those who are criticizing the president should answer the question, what process of fact-finding in the circumstances should have been put in place, unless their argument is the facts don't matter. Whoever has been accused and stigmatized in this process should be hung up to dry. That kind of sentiment is not one that I can accept. Right? Okay. I think it's wrong. Mm-hmm. But our people are rightly concerned about the use of judicial commissions of inquiry by politicians to kick the can down the road, to avoid responsibility. I think that's why the president has said, look, in 3 months' time, they must produce a report. 3 months, not a long time. And then the next report 3 months later. Now, let me make one further point, Mike. I know I tend to go on and on. The point, from my point of view, the value of what he's done is that it's going to assist me as the new minister in the work that I need to do. Because here I have the benefit of 3 judges making findings on fact on many matters that would ordinarily fall within the responsibility of the minister. And how is the minister going to burrow into the detail, interview people, in effect carry out an inquiry in the police service while trying to win their confidence, trying to build the morale of the police, trying to build trust between myself and the police leadership. That is also my responsibility. So this inquiry is going to help me, in my view. They will also make recommendations which are of a systemic nature. This is something that I don't hear people talking about, the politicians talking about, who are highly agitated. I want to say to you, I think politics is very important, democratic politics, but politicians who are adversaries also have to exercise a judgment. Attacking your opponents because they're opponents is not always justified. Now, they will make systemic inquiries. Now, let's take a problem in the police service, which we have in other departments, of procurement fraud. At the root of this, of the issues that General Mkhwanazi has raised, have got to do with the tender process. 2 of the persons against whom there are serious allegations, who are not politicians or judicial officers or police officers, but who are tendering, are business people. Now, they are going to look at those allegations, and they may well come up with recommendations which say to me and the president, you can restructure tendering in the police service in a way that will address these systemic problems and improve accountability, right? So I personally think that that this has been a sound decision by the president.
And the other question that has been raised is the people who that you mentioned, who have been accused, rightly or wrongly, like General Sibiya, for example, but also Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi himself, that they are actually players in this conflict that's going on in the higher echelons of the police service. The question, that can be asked is whether they should actually remain in place while this investigation or investigations are going on, because they actually are players they've got vested interests in the process and its potential outcome.
So I will say a couple of things about that issue. It's the critical question. So everybody out there is thinking along the following lines. The allegations that General Mkhwanazi made required the president, in some sense, perhaps forced his hand, because ordinarily he doesn't want to dismiss people or put them on special leave, people he's appointed. It required him to take the decisions that he has. So there were other people who were identified in that public interview within the police service. Are there actions that need to be taken in the SAPS? Now, I am not going to express a view on that matter now, because I want to have a conversation with the National Commissioner. I have to respect his responsibility and his seniority and his leadership. He will also have to listen to my views, and we will find a way forward together on what has to be done. I've already said publicly, I think I can say this, that when I meet him, I'm going to ask him if he thinks that maybe the first visit that we should jointly make is to KwaZulu-Natal and to meet the leadership there, which might include General Mkhwanazi. And then I might want to meet with the provincial government, the MEC there. I'll have to see but at some point I definitely will have to meet all the MECs, go across to all the provinces. But I thought that KwaZulu-Natal should be the priority. And after I've met with the National Commissioner, and then together we will make a public views about whether further steps should be taken and what those steps are in SAPS. But I will say this, it can't be correct that so far that the action that has been taken by the President, the Commissioner of Police and myself will have to think about what further actions that should be taken.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. The very unseemly, public infighting among senior police officers. What does it tell us about the state of the police as an institution today?
This can happen.
Because ordinarily it shouldn't happen, that people at that level.
Yes.
I mean, you spoke about processes and procedures and channels within an institution like that. It's an old institution. It should be having set ways of doing things.
Yeah.
But for once it goes public like this, what does it indicate about the state of the police service?
So, policing in a democratic society it's an awesome power, because, and again, our history teaches us that we need police officers. But it also teaches us that they have to be accountable, professional, that they have to respect human rights, that they have to respect the limits that the law places on them. They are not a militia. They don't have unlimited power. They exercise those powers always subject to the law, because they can arrest people. They can coerce people. They can put people in jail. They can visit cruelty on people. Okay? So I believe in policing, professional policing. That's, I think, what the Constitution requires, subject to the law. That's why we need a professional police service. Where we are going, if we don't arrest this, and in this regard, I have to say that my own party is not blameless. We have to learn some lessons here.
This is the ANC.
Yes. If you politicize policing and you factionalize policing, this is what you end up with. The police are not supposed, the police are supposed to be outside the political arena. Inside, they are not supposed to be factionalized. They are supposed to respect their command structures. Now, what we are seeing is evidence of some degeneration. But I, from experience, can also say that we have tremendous skills in the police service. We have quality people. The National Commissioner is one of them. So I feel I have the people on that side in the police service that I can work with. They themselves, by the way, I think they're the first ones to feel very uncomfortable about the situation, because they are professionals. They respect the ethos of their profession. I don't know if profession is the right word, but they are professionals. They are police officers. They are not politicians. They should not be behaving as if they are contending for political power, that they are they are not part of the parliamentary process. They are not part of political parties. And I think that we appear to be, there are elements, I hope they are limited and that we can deal with it, of politicians who are trying to control policing, criminals even, definitely. There's an element of criminality that appears to be entering the policing space, and that's very alarming. It's unacceptable, and we've got to stop the rot. But we can do so. Mm-hmm. We have to do so. There's no choice.
Yeah. Now wearing both your law professor's cap and the Minister of Police's cap at the same time, I think a lot of South Africans would, have come to a point where they believe that our laws and the Constitution are very soft on criminals and criminality. I'm sure you're familiar with that sentiment. Well, what's your view on that? That criminals get away. I mean, people look at a case like the Omodoso case, for example, people getting parole, coming out and then repeat offending, once they are on parole, that kind of thing.
So I believe in strategic professional policing. I think that, and to this extent, I thought very often we've had ministers, with all due respect to them, and national commissioners who appear to think that the problem that can be solved through tough rhetoric, strong language and firmness must be communicated to the public. But I do not believe that Skopskit and Donner brings down crime. In fact, what it does is criminalize the police.
So it criminalizes them in what way? Because
they then start acting and are encouraged to act unlawfully. We have some allegations of torture with our history. I can't believe that we still have a situation where there are such allegations. I was tortured. I know what it means to be in a prison cell and be tortured by the police. You know many stories of that, Mike. I'm not saying, look, we know what that means. Shoot to kill. Giving the police a license to murder is not the answer. What we need is, the police have to be well protected, well trained to exercise to use force. They must be able to use force, but they must be able to use force within the limits of the law. You see a lot of that kind of policing in a way, high visibility policing. The police want to communicate that they're there. I think when you have highly trained detectives with good information, with good intelligence, that's the way to deal with syndicates, right? If you want to deal with organized crime, you need your smartest people, your most capable people who know how to carry out these investigations, see the patterns. Because syndicated crime, as you know, is not just individuals. These are people who are planning, they organize, they may well be trained to use arms and so forth and so forth. So I believe in professional policing, effective policing with the police have to police. They will have, the message from me will be to give them the confidence as professionals to carry out their responsibility. I'm not going to be saying to him, no. My message to them is to respect rights, to respect the law, but to use all means necessary within the law to fight criminality. Why? Because our people need safety and security. Criminals should be behind bars. Now, to do that is not just the responsibility of the police. We need good investigators in IDEC, which is part of the Justice Department. We need a strong NPA. So we also need to look at the prison system, because people are processed through the prison system. There's a lot of criminality probably in the police. I understand that the Commissioner of Prisons is doing an excellent job, but people get released into society and so forth. So the whole system has to be looked at. And that's why what I have to do, I have to work with the Minister of Justice, I have to work in the JCPS cluster, and so forth. I think that professional policing is the answer to our problems. Not politicized policing, not factionalized policing, and not Skopskit and Donner. Smart policing. So I believe that the detectives, you see, one of the, look at the human resources. Why must you be a detective if your work never really gets honored and respected? Because in order for you to rise the ranks, you have to go into management. I think our detectives should have a career path.
As detectives.
They should be able to climb the ladder and improve their remuneration through their performance and the job that they are doing. So I think that that is a good example of what I'm trying to point out. The problem is, do we have the right approach to recruiting staff, to police officers, and ensuring that there is proper career pathing, proper training to get the job done. I know that the only way to climb the ladder at the moment is to become a commissioner. Maybe some of your commissioners are the best detectives.
Now, you mentioned smart policing, and you mentioned the importance of crime intelligence in that. A lot of people would agree with you, but that gives us a problem because we've got the top leadership of crime intelligence sitting in jail right now.
So, yes.
How do we even begin to? Okay,
so I'm going to have to get my head around that. I'm aware of the problem. You remember Bluli? Mm-hmm. I worked with him when he was in Gauteng. Is he still in jail? I mean, he was convicted.
Yeah, he was convicted, But someone said he was out, but I haven't been able to establish.
But, I mean, what was his relationship with the former president, Zuma? That's an example of when politicians don't respect their roles and their boundaries. That's where you end up. So I am saying these things, I'm talking this way because I think it's very important for our people to... Democracies work best when your people are knowledgeable and experienced. They have to understand what the challenge is in policing. They have to understand how to hold the politicians accountable and to hold them to account. Because even till today, there are people who will defend that kind of conduct by a president. And those people who do that must own up to the consequences of what they are preaching. I'm saying the president's powers are given by the Constitution. Presidents govern on behalf of the people. They should not corrupt intelligence. It wasn't only criminal intelligence. There was a Mafumadi report, that panel. I must still go back and read that report carefully. We've had enough experience of politicians not respecting their roles and the limits of their power. And I have to understand that as a minister. I am a minister of state. It's an enormous privilege and honor. My job is I'm not a king. I'm not the commissioner's boss. I don't expect anyone to carry my bag. I hope that I don't have to travel with blue lights. I don't know but people have to learn that. That's what they must expect from their political deployees in a way. When I became the MEC, suddenly everyone wanted to carry my bag. And I knew, once I allowed that, my own ability to understand why I'm there and to carry out my job. In time, I would start to think that I'm a god or a boss, you don't treat people that way. So I'm not preaching. I'm just saying to you. So we ended up. We've had 30 years of democracy. It's a great achievement. We must now protect it and learn from our mistakes. And we are beginning to learn how to exact accountability. In the first 15, 20 years, There was no situation where a minister stepped aside. You have the governing party now debating how far this principle should go. Remember, step aside, which is my view, step aside doesn't only apply to when somebody has been charged with a criminal offense. If the public believe that there are serious allegations against a politician, as there are in these circumstances, there has to be provisional action. Once the facts are determined, but in many mature democracies, it is routinely the case that the public will demand action short of any criminal prosecution, any trial process, any conviction. You now have the situation where the Prime Minister, and I hope the English people are listening, the Prime Minister in England has been allowing whoever to buy him suits. Mm-hmm. And that question is about whether he's fit and
tickets
proper.
to football games.
Yes. In fact, that is deeply problematic. Now they're asking him questions and so forth. Keir Starmer should resign. Mm-hmm. So we are, and the Constitution doesn't tell a minister when they should resign. Constitution is not a panacea, doesn't answer all questions. So I think we are in the process also of learning to live in a democracy, learning to improve accountability. And so I think our public we are learning together. Mm. We're learning together about how a democracy should work.
Mm. You, by virtue of your political track record, are known by many people in the ANC. You know? So if they should call you, some people might feel, oh, great, a comrade has been made Minister of Police, the president didn't go and get someone from the DA or some other. Mm. So what are you going to say to them if they call and say, hey, comrade, I've got this little problem that I would like you to help me with?
I think my appointment is being appreciated in the ANC, and it's being appreciated in the ANC because comrades in the ANC know what I stand for. And they know that I will defend the integrity of the ANC, because that integrity requires that I defend the integrity of the country. Of course, today, because 30 years, so many people have been turned out to be suspect in this regard in the ANC, that many people feel liberation movement, when it was born in 1912, was a source of pride to our people, and across the continent, and across the world. I know that history. I will defend that history. So, I have spoken out in the ANC. I have never minced my words. They all know what I stand for. And they all know what I stand for is what they are supposed to stand for. Nobody in the ANC will call me to ask for a favor. Mm. They won't, because they know that I won't listen to them.
Let's talk about the architecture of our police service. Mm-hmm. It looks to me like there are too many fingers in the broth. You've got crime intelligence, you've got IDEC, you've got the Hawks, you've got the now disbanded, or maybe not disbanded, the task team on political killings, etc. It does not seem like those structures are assisting us to make progress, or up to now have assisted us in, to make progress in fighting crime and corruption. Might we not be in a position where maybe we should review this, that maybe the efforts are too disparate?
If you go back to this conversation we had about smart policing, professional policing, that's the first question you have to ask. Is the police service structured and capacitated to carry out the tasks envisaged in the Constitution? I would say that the organizations we've set up in terms of the Constitution are always like approximations. You think about the Constitution as setting the standard, and to some extent, the question is always, are we able to meet that standard? Are we able to fulfill the promise of what the Constitution envisages? So the police do fall short, as do almost every other institution. And the question always has to be, how can structural reform, institutional reform address this? What should we do with crime intelligence? Should it be decentralized? Should it be disbanded and recreated? I know of one example, I think it's in Colombia, where they had a problem with crime intelligence. And we do have a problem with crime intelligence. And they disbanded that crime intelligence agency, and then the one they replaced it with was even more corrupt. So policing is always a challenge. There are criminals who are encouraged to join the police service, and maybe some of them become criminals once they're in the police, because you have power. So I think that these are questions I will certainly look at. So I want to meet with the commissioner, agree with him what the priorities are, and then say to him, based on evidence, because I like to work on the basis of facts, of research, of analysis, I'm going to bring people into my office, like I did in Gauteng, that enable me to have a productive conversation with the commissioner and say, station by station, here are the facts. Here's the performance. These are the number of cases that you are currently investigating. These are the number of cases that have been taken to court. Why is there such a gap? Right? And then say together, not by accusing, because what needs to be done? Do you need some support? Of course, he might well say to me, we need some more resources. And I might say to him, well, the evidence shows that you have adequate resources, but the resources may not be adequately being utilized. It may be a question like that we have to look at. There is currently a partnership with the business community to, as I understand, to digitalize every police station. And I think they're working with 6 police stations. They're doing it on a pilot basis so that you can improve the experience of our people have at the front line, right? Because we know that there are a lot of police officers struggling to take statements, and I mean, if you have a poor statement from the very beginning, it's going to have knock-on effects and so forth. But I was just thinking, once this was brought to my attention, well, why can't we do 60 police stations? I mean, I think we have about 1,200 police stations in the country over a 5-year period, or can we not have a project to complete every police station in the country? So this is going to be very difficult, very challenging. Government budgets are limited. We have some pockets of excellence in the police service. We have some areas of incompetence and dysfunction. I'm going to have to make that assessment together with the National Commissioner, and together we can then agree on the next steps. And I will only talk about those things, be prepared and able to talk about these things once I've gone through that process.
Those would be the like, in a sense, your priorities.
Yes. What are the priorities? We have to agree priorities. He has to explain to me what his priorities are. I have to express a view on that. Priorities are usually, so I would think that the priorities the minister has to have input. That's a political risk, because it's an electoral mandate, right? The political, that's how a democratic government works. But he will have a wealth of experience, information, the benefit of his engagement with his provincial commissioners, heads of units and so forth, and I will have to listen to him. But then we have to agree on what those priorities are, and then jointly communicate what those priorities are and how we intend to go about addressing them. And once we have that agreement, we want to then make sure that across the country there's alignment. And the priorities in different provinces might be different. The rural provinces as opposed to the more urban ones. Gauteng is probably a lot more like KwaZulu-Natal and so forth. And so you listen to what the provincial commissioners have to say, the provincial MECs, and then try and align the police service and the country behind the project. a project with priorities, outcomes, and then we can all be held accountable, including myself. And if I am failing, I expect to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm. Just lastly, your appointment. I mean, you said earlier in our conversation that you hope that you won't be obliged to use blue lights and stuff like that. But your appointment as Minister of Police will change your life from a personal point of view. Yes. What has been the response of your family, friends?
It's very interesting. I'm of course, from the people who are closest to me, I'm getting a lot of wishing and congratulations. And as I've said, like the congratulations make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but also some concern. So many people are saying to me, "Watch your back. What about your security?" And so forth. I don't want to think too much about that. I think that's the responsibility of the department. I don't want to get into a mindset where I'm fearful, that I'm concerned more about my own safety as opposed to the safety of the public. If that is the case, I should refuse this appointment. So I will be prudent, but I'm not going to I'm not going to be governed by fear.
Mm-hmm. Minister Firoz Cachalia, we'd like to thank you very much for your time. Also, what do people call you now? Do they still call you Prof, or they're waiting for that?
They should, as soon as I retire, they should stop calling me Prof. And then they can call me what they like.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for this conversation with Professor Minister Cachalia on the Politics Weekly. My name is Mike Siluma, and thanks for tuning in. Until next time, do stay safe, stay blessed, and let's do good for our country.
Thank you.